Okay, I think let's start. Welcome everyone to the second of our 5 sessions to prepare for the Mundekulla 3 days of running festival, running from the 7th to the 10th of September here in Mundekulla, Sweden. That's where I'm currently. And just maybe to start to introduce, we've got Roy Hinnen here.
Hello, I'm in St. Moritz, riding the bicycle for 6 hours today.
So Roy is specialized obviously on triathlon. So the running is only one element of what he focuses on. And I think this year, Roy, your focus is mostly on the bicycle, right?
The bicycle, I can push the most volume and be sure that I can test my new training plan, because there's no injury basically with cycling. You can do, I did like 10,000 kilometers since this year, since January. So you can just really test what you want to do without any limitations. Like if you overrun, there's always something going wrong, you know.
That's a beautiful thing to have. Yeah, go ahead.
Today I saw Remco Evenepoel, so the world champion on the bicycle. He passed us, and then we caught up and took a picture of him.
You see, I think this doesn't matter. It's nice that you saw him, so you get confirmation that you're training in the right place.
yeah, but then we say tschüss because he was boom.
That's a segue to the Mundekulla Running Festival, because having you joining the Mundekulla Running Festival gives everyone who will attend the feeling that they are at the right place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Here we go. And I'd like to give a little anecdote maybe to start with, and then we dive straight into our agenda we will present here on screen. As I mentioned, Roy started again. I worked with Roy already a number of times, but only about 6 weeks ago, he took me again under his wings, not as a full kind of coachee, but within the limits I have available during my other day load. And so 6 weeks ago we started. I recall my first run I did, although I'm used to run long runs. I did a half marathon this year already, last year a full marathon. But when I did this first 7K, after we started 6 weeks ago to adjust a training plan to my abilities, then it was really difficult for me to run it. And after 7K, I was really tired, and my body was working against me. The street was working against me. And since then, I've logged in maybe, I think it's about 250 kilometers of running, something like this. And today here in Mundekulla on the racetrack, I just, according to the plan, I had a low pulse segment, meaning running somewhere in the band of 110 to 120 pulse. So the speed doesn't really matter too much, but the distance matters, as I'd like, and Roy will definitely later on get a little bit into these details of the different training segments. But speed doesn't matter so much, but distance and time does matter. And today my reaction was I did it entirely effortless. Mm-hmm. It felt like floating over that gravel road. And that was not planned like this. I thought it will feel different since I did a 31-kilometer run last Saturday. But I was really surprised how well these 6 weeks of following a structured approach, embedding the different running modules, really supported my feeling, my experience, and ultimately also my outcomes.
So Martin, just to interrupt, so you had like a second wind behind you. So probably sleeping was good, nutrition was good, emotional balance was good. You were motivated, so you had a high, emotional high. And take into account that you need the emotional low will also come. It's like an up and down for all the people who watch this. Once you have the high, it will go down. This is a law, and it's good like that. Low is not bad, high is not better. It's just a feedback from that day. And isn't that nice to have a high? Enjoy the high. There will be other days where the training is hard, or you struggle, you didn't sleep well, didn't eat well, you have a bad dream, whatever, and then you have to fight, really fight hard. And then don't compare that what you had today to the fighting days. Leave it as it is, day by day. That's a big recommendation. I also struggle on those points sometimes. When I am on a high, I say, okay, this high will stay personally always with me for the rest of the life. It will never happen.
Very nice. Thanks a lot for sharing this. And I think that's one of the things I really wanted. That's why I shared this anecdote. I think the advice you give here helps me in particular to not jump over certain modules, but to better listen to my body and to accept certain conditions as maybe a condition which I just have to embed. But then I continue and do the module you give me as a target, and this then over time compounds the outcomes. So thanks for this. Maybe just to dive into the thing, and maybe someone may help me to say whether, do you see now the screen and the slides?
Yes.
Okay, good. So maybe just to go into what we'd like to cover within the next roughly 50 minutes. First of all, last time we talked a bit more about the general concept, and you will find the slides from last time on the website, but it's not live yet. We will put them on the website. But this time we really dive into the track you can expect. And we do this and we'll break it down into the segments of the run in order to give you an idea. Some of the most frustrating situations I encountered as not a professional runner is when I would go for a race and I have my idea for what it is, and then it's different. Then the inclination is different, the underground is different. I get the segments wrong. And this is not only frustrating, it's wasting energy and it leads to a bad outcome. So we thought it's a good thing for Roy and me to walk through the different segments as we have been on the track. So it's not done on a map. We've been on the track, we've been running the track, and like to give you as precise of an idea for what you can expect from each of the segments. As you will see, these segments will be utterly different. And that's the beauty of that track. It's not a track which is all flat asphalt. It provides kind of Roy would say, a rolling hill experience. And we will discuss what that really means. But it's a track which brings together different undergrounds, different terrains, and with that, different pace, different experiences. And the better you listen to this and embody it, the more you can take out of it and the more you can enjoy it. And that's what we'd like to achieve. We say the Mundekulla running race is not predominantly for your best time. It can be your best time, as we found out, but it's made for the best experience. And we'd like to give you this kind of heads up. So what can you expect of the track is the first thing. Then we discuss the different undergrounds. We drill into the different segments, as I mentioned. And then we have some comments on the recommended training modules, knowing that we've got just 6 weeks left. So you can't, if you haven't started to run because you only do one race and this is going to be the Mundekulla race, 6 weeks is not too much. So we'd like to make sure that you get a little bit of substance to make those 6 weeks within the constraints you may have meaningful for your preparation. Maybe some other tactics to optimize the outcome on race day, and then we have a Q&A and closing comments. And I know we've got, I think, Victor on the call as well, who's for the first time doing such run. To the best of my knowledge, he will have a few questions, I guess, for his own preparation of one of the shorter options we offer on that day. So just what you can expect, Roy, maybe let's do that a little bit interactive. We've been both 2 weeks ago on the track. We've done the 42, the 21, the 10 and the 5Ks separately. you recorded it on Strava. We have these Strava segments available on the web page. But can you give maybe a high-level idea for you? You've been there for the first time. So what was your reaction when you went on the track? What did you feel? So how would you fit into your previous experience?
First of all, you have to understand that you're basically running on sea level, so there's maximum oxygen that you can intake. Maximum oxygen means you have access to the full power. I'm in St. Moritz at 1900 meters, so I have about 8% less oxygen. So my performance is limited. Then you have the beautiful air. It's a very healthy, good air for your lungs. So that's something you have to know. That's a good start. Good start to really enjoy running.
8% mean? Can you give an idea? How does that feel if someone runs with 8% less oxygen? Is this an impact you feel, or is
yes?
Let's
say, as you said today, you had a nice flow. Let's say at 5 minutes per kilometer, you had a nice flow. If you're in St. Moritz, you could do with the same output of energy. You would probably do about 5:20, 5:22. So that's 22 seconds per kilometer. You're slower.
Okay, that's significant. If you do a 42K, that's a quarter of an hour.
Yeah. Yes, so it must be to take account. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe to the clean air, a little anecdote here as well. Here in Mundekulla, from ancient times, there are stone walls where the farmers would put the boulders from the farmland into nice stone walls. And first time I came here, I saw there's some white spots on those stones, and I didn't fully acknowledge what it was. And then we had a specialist here on place who said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "What is it?" It's a kind of a fungus which only appears if the air is entirely pure for a long time. And once the air gets bad, it will go away and will not come back. So to your point, Roy, which you sensed, obviously, the air here can be assumed to be very clean.
Yes.
Different from running a city run wherever this city is.
Yes.
What else did you observe? You make that comment on rolling hill. I heard it first time. Now I know what you mean. But for those who haven't been on a track, what does that mean, rolling hill? Okay,
so it's so funny because when I select the races, the triathlon races for my athletes, we go to Ironman.com and then we look at the scale and the drawings of the bike course. For example, it says rolling hills, it says hilly, or it says flat. Then you see a chart, you see a PDF chart, and then you see up and down and up and down. It looks very spectacular. After you check the map more clearly, you see that it's in Florida, and one up is like 0.5 meter and one down is 0.5 meter. So it's basically flat course. So those graphics are not really showing you the real story. So that's why we have a Strava club. And then you can see very easily, for example, on the 5K run, we have like 31 meters of height of climbing. So this puts the graphic into perspective. 31 meters, you have to go up. 31 meters, you also go down, because we start and finish at the same time. And this is the knowledge. This I will call rolling hills. If it would be, 500 meters, it's like it would be hilly. So check the climbing you do per run, and then compare it with the runs you do, and then you have your own idea. If you live in Florida, maybe 31 meters is like really hilly. If you live in Switzerland, you would say 31 meters for a 5K is basically flat. So depending where you come, that's why we have the Strava club.
Very nice. And maybe an advice you gave me, Roy, when we were on the track the other week, I said, "Whoa, it's going up and it's going down." And you then responded and said, "Well, I didn't feel that. I think it's essentially very flat and typically going down." And now as I tried to take that up and was on Saturday and today running again, I tried to remember it. And you gave me the advice and said, when you go up, obviously you need more energy. When you go down, you need to get into a way to run which gives you energy, which let go. So I didn't exactly know when you told me what that means. So I trained it now on Saturday and today.
Bravo.
So on Saturday, it still took me some effort, but I did a 31-kilometer run. So I had a long time to train it and to make natural. So can you expand a little bit on that economy of up and down?
Okay, that's why some guys run with wattage on the foot. So they have a special device, wattage on the foot. So I would say to you, you're not running 530 today, you're running 240 watts. So that's your output performance that you do. 240 you can do downhill, uphill you can do whatever, wherever you are. So this is an output measurement, and the speed then will differ. So anybody running with wattage, and this is the advantage. So you know, okay, on the uphill, take a little bit out, stay on the 240, and on the downhill, you say, okay, I'm on 220, okay, I need to go 240 also. So then you can balance more. But you don't need to buy this gadget, this app. You can do it also by feeling that usually people from the mindset, athletes from the mindset usually push too hard up the hill, thinking the harder I go, the faster it's passed. But it's a good idea, but you can only do it so many times, and then you're just exhausted. So on a natural feeling, take a little bit out going uphill. And when you reach the top of this little hill, can be a little hill, 10 meters of climbing, start to accelerate downhill. So you take the speed, the momentum, your 70 kilos, or 80 kilos, you take it down. Then it makes a nice rolling hill.
Very nice. Thanks for sharing that, Roy. So, I don't want to spend too much more time on this one. Let's go into the practical experiences. Maybe just to say, start and finish line are exactly in the core of Mundekulla, which means you will wake up in the morning, you will have your breakfast, do your routines, and then you just walk across to the start line and start. And when you're done with your running, you walk back, take a shower, and that's what it is. Why is that so important? I experienced in most of the runs I did so far, if you're not a VIP or a kind of a top athlete, you first walk to the start line and you wait for a long time standing in that stall, and this takes a lot of energy from your legs already. So you're already tired before you even start. And that's not what's going to happen here. So the distance you'd like to run is the distance your legs will get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we will have a small number of runners, which means, when Galina and I did the half marathon in Zurich, well, the entire field until the last runner would go across the start line, that takes about 10 minutes. So from the pistol until the last runner crosses is already 10 minutes. So that's not going to happen here. We'll have a small number. It's by default a very small run. So that's exclusive. So don't take that as where are all these thousands of runners? That's not what we want to have here. We will not have it here. It's going to be a small group of runners. You will run that run for yourself to find into balance with yourself. So it's not the crowd of tens of thousands of people who give you the pulse. But be prepared to get into your rhythm. And that will add to this experience we hope you will take away with. So maybe just to go into those undergrounds, and these are live shots from the route. At the core H, you see that's the farm with the heart-shaped lake. And I'm pretty sure that most of the runners when crossing the finish line will feel tempted to jump into that lake. So that's why we have it here. Yeah. This lake is going to wait for you. It's beautiful. Okay, so we have A. A is a soft forest road. Or how would you describe that? What kind of road is that, Roy? It's quite soft, right?
Yes, I don't know if in other countries it's also there when you have this. How do you say this in English? There's those tracks where they put those wooden little pieces on the floor where it's very soft and you can run.
Okay.
How do you call that? It's a very.
I don't know. In Switzerland, we call it Finnenbahn.
Yeah, Finnenbahn, exactly.
It's wooden flakes, like you say, pallets, wooden flakes, small flakes, which give such a kind of feathering experience, right?
Yeah.
What you need to observe here, though, is you see you've got the two tracks for the wheels of a car or a tractor, and you've got the green in the middle. So you need to be a little bit attentive to not stumble, which is a bit different than in B. These are hard roads. They are made for decent cars. And the trouble there may be that sometimes you need to find the right track, because it's in Sweden. And what is particular here in Sweden is that in winter, everything is frozen. So the communities, they have trucks which prepare the underground for cars to drive on ice and slush ice. So you have a kind of a contour on that track. So you need to find your pace to kind of be kind with your feet and not to stumble.
It was funny when we did it with the mountain bike, how the handlebar, was shaking like this because you have those little rounds.
Yeah.
But for the running, it's you don't feel it so hard actually.
C then is a true forest track. We don't have too many of those. In particular, in the 42K, in the full marathon, we have a segment of a few kilometers, which are really forest passes. Beautiful, I have to say. You maybe want to have some mosquito spray on your legs or on your neck, because that's where the mosquitoes hide, in the forest. But it's beautiful because you can fully embrace the forest, and the forest gives back to you. It's only one part where you see these boulders, where farmers maybe wanted to signal where their property starts or ends, but you don't have to jump here anyway. But it's the C, and then D is something special as well. And there is one passage of D where there is these larger gravel pieces, and it goes uphill. So I felt that was quite difficult. Roy, any comments to this? Do you recall this?
Yes, C and D, I don't know if I can show it on the screen. So usually you also do it on the technique we need to work when the underground is a little bit unsafe and not really like a flat road. Usually athletes lift their toes up and go like this to the floor. So they're coming this way. But this way will put a lot of impact to the hips. So what you want to do is when you lift your foot, you want to kind of keep the toes still downhill and land on the middle and then propel forward.
So what you say, Roy, it wasn't, we couldn't hear it, but what you say is you should, in such a terrain, you should avoid to land on the back foot.
Yes, usually it's like a holding against the terrain. You're lifting your toes up and coming with the Ferse. What's the Ferse in English?
With the heel.
With the heel, you're going with the heel towards the floor, and when you hit with the heel, it's always a back force. You push back. So leave the toes down and just land on the middle, even though the surface is not so safe.
And then combine it with the comment you made before: don't fight against the hill. Go with the hill. Invite the hill, and land rather on your toes. To welcome that hill, and then it will carry you up.
Yes, and be alert of where you will be where you'll be touching the floor. So usually the ice should go 2 meters to 8 meters in front of where you are running. 2 to 8. Some guys are running around like this. Some guys running around like this. So you should not do that. Just like 2 to 8 meters, you focus on your eyes should prepare yourself for what you expect to touch on the floor.
Good. And maybe just a safety comment. You made that comment to me. I tried it out. Then I realized I'm an old man. I have Varilux eyeglasses. So they focus on 0 to 6 meters. So 8 meters wasn't a go for me. I had to stay within the 6 meters, otherwise everything gets blurred.
That's
so
okay.
Stay safe. I think that's the comment I wanted to make here.
Yeah.
Then E, which is this lake view segment. That's beautiful, I have to say. It's probably my favorite.
Yes.
It's a nice hard road. And you have this wonderful view on the lake. If the weather is fine, blue sky, it's a little bit colder there or cooler there. So it's not so sun exposed, but you have full visibility. You can really enjoy that. I recommend you enjoy that piece, as you will see it typically twice. For the 21K and 42, you see it twice. So you can enjoy it twice. And then you've got F, and F is here because there you have a road which is gravel, and it leads then at the end of that photograph towards that red house into asphalt road. And this is a nice moment for me, at least, and maybe Roy, you can also comment on it, because on the gravel road you tend to use a little bit more energy, and then you come on this asphalt, and these first maybe 10, 20, 50 meters, that's just beautiful. Yeah. You see like flying over that asphalt, which has much less it's easier to run. So
yes, it is easier. It is easier. You gain 1 or 2 seconds really on parquet, and you feel it, and you could hold back a little bit on the speed, and then to be more ready on the other surfaces to come, or just enjoy and push and say, okay, I'll make up the time because I'm not so used to running on uneven grounds, up to the tactics of the run.
Yeah, and I think you made the point in a few seconds. For most, 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but you feel it, as you said.
Yes.
And it gives you at least that's what happens to me. In that moment, it's a moment of joy somehow, because you feel a difference which comes unexpectedly somehow.
If you ever have done a marathon and in front of you runs a woman who's maybe one head smaller than you, doesn't have the nice figure you have, she's 20 meters running ahead of you, and you just say, come on, I'm going to get this woman, and you just don't get that woman. Then you know how hard it is. 20 meters is maybe, what is it, 4 or 5 seconds, but you have to to gain those 5 seconds. It's hard work, really.
It's hard work. It can take a long time. I recall a marathon I did in Warsaw, and I was running maybe it was around kilometer 20 to 20 something, 28. I was running next to a guy, and we did a bit talking, but we were basically had the same target time, and we were running in lockstep on that target time, and then the laces of my shoes would go open. And I had to bow down and fix my shoes again. It took me maybe, what does it take, 10 seconds? I couldn't catch up with him anymore. Those 10 seconds, because he was running essentially the same speed like I did, same target time, I couldn't catch up with those 10 seconds for the remaining 10, 12 kilometers. That's true. So then we have the last segment here, which is G. And G is then asphalt. We promised we will not have a lot of asphalt, but I would say in total it's about 5 kilometers of asphalt road for the 42K. For half marathon, it's very limited. For 10K, it's 0, and for the 5K, it's 0 as well. So these are the 2, 4, 6, 7 types of underground you can encounter, and as Roy now outlined, each of them needs some specific consideration, and even if you have no time to get to train in Mundekulla before the race, I think it's helpful to memorize these types, and wherever you live and train, you may find some segments and want to test this out. It will benefit your experience. Let's go into the different segments, and what you see here on the left side of the screen is the map for the 42 kilometers. Now, not to say that we don't want to discuss the other segments, the shorter ones, but here we have all the segments present, and then we will wrap up with the other elements you find in the shorter runs. But I think we do it. You see the start is on the left side. That's Mundekulla. And we call this first segment Rabbit Hole. It's about 3 kilometers long. And as you can see, it's E. It's a hard gravel road where typically cars and buses circulate. It's a regular street, I would say, with no traffic. So we call it Rabbit Hole here because the village it leads through is called Harebo. And Harebo means the home of the rabbits. So that's why we call it Rabbit Hole. So that's all. So you don't have to go through a hole. But what you may see is rabbits. This morning, as I was running here, a family of rabbits was crossing my way. So it's real. So it's the Rabbit Hole, and I think, Roy, do you remember it as flat, or how do you remember it? I don't remember it really like this.
I have to be honest, I don't remember nothing except the trees that you pass. And when the trees have a distance to each other, like here, like 3-4 meters, maybe sometimes 10 meters, I can visualize the speed I'm going. So I'm happy to run towards a goal because the trees have more distance than a forest. That's what I remember. But the rest I cannot remember.
Okay, maybe I can add a few things. It's for the start, it's somehow pleasant because the first 1.5 kilometers have certain declines in it. And maybe the word of caution, I guess, Roy, you can expand on is don't overdo in the beginning of a marathon.
Yes.
In all the euphoria and it goes down, don't overdo it. So what would be your advice for that in terms of pulse or stride or elements like that?
It's a difficult question because I don't know the performance level of the runner, but usually in the beginning you're all hyped up. The energy source comes from the glycogen, and if you have the energy from the glycogen, this burns the most easy. So sugar burning for the body takes less oxygen to burn than if you have to burn from fat. So you're thinking, okay, I should be running 5:30. Yeah, let's do 5:15. I feel good today. That's the first mistake because you don't know how you will be feeling in 3 hours. So here, stick really to the pacing that I will help all the athletes to do. Stick hard to the pacing. Don't get emotional. Don't get emotional.
I think that's important. And I recall 10 years, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when you coached me first time, you said something like, if you go into the anaerobe phase here in the beginning, this burns about 5 times as much glucogen than in your zone, in your ideal zone. So if you go downwards here and push the pedal hard and your pulse goes up through the roof, it will catch up with you.
Yes, and not also that, but also if you're running too fast, then you produce lactate acid. And this, when you produce that, you cannot burn fat. So basically, you run yourself into a bonk.
Okay, that's what you want to avoid. Then from the rabbit hole, we then turn into the forest. So you see, for the next about 3 kilometers, you have a variety of undergrounds, and which is lovely. There are some segments where it's a little bit uphill and then flat again. You've got routes across the street in the segment A, where you have Forest Street. You have a little bit of everything here. So it's something I would say you need to be attentive. You can't just blindly jog, right?
So you are in from 3 to 6K. You're still in the emotional phase. You have a, let's say, a challenging surface. So it's still holding back and pacing yourself. Keep calm, relax your mind, breathe in a good way, you know. And
keep, like Roy said, watching 6-8 meters ahead, because there may be a route, or there may be a hole in the street, or there may be something different, and this should not hit you by surprise. Then comes the first asphalt road. We call it here Turbine. It's about 1.5 kilometers, a public street. And we call it turbine because there may be quite strong wind blowing against you. I don't know why, but it is. So it happened now a couple of times for me that when turning into that street, which is in fact a lovely, nicely wound street, nice to country road, nice to run, but every time there was quite some strong wind against. So what is your advice, Roy, when wind blows against you, with or without rain?
Wind is something we have on the bicycle much more because we are much faster, and it can be the enemy, but it also can be like a heel. So if you have a lot of headwind, just imagine, instead of fighting, because you're seeing visually it's flat and you don't get the speed you really hoped for, so you're disappointed, emotionally disappointed. So just imagine when you have a lot of headwind that you're going uphill. Just play a trick.
So that can be frustrating. So don't get frustrated. Now you know it.
Yeah.
And make it your friend. It's 1.5 kilometers. Come on.
The more you push against the headwind, it's the same. The harder you go uphill, you will pay the price because it's a marathon.
Maybe in the next session next week, as we talk about equipment, you may also give some ideas for how to prepare your clothing. If it's rain and windy, or dry and windy, kind of not windy and wet. So we may also discuss these kind of choices you'd like to make in preparing your equipment, but not today. Yeah. Then from there is the second segue, which starts with a crossing of the railway. It's obviously a safe crossing of the railway. We can't stop the train should the train come in that moment, but it's a rare occasion that the train passes by there, and then it's closed, but it may slow you down by half a minute. So also don't be angry with us, with the organizers. We try to give you a wonderful, lovely rolling hill experience across the dark forests in southern Sweden. So that's part of it. Enjoy it. So you cross the railway, and then it goes in a little kind of a snake winding up to that upper end of that circle, which we will now discuss in more detail. It's basically a gravel road, nothing sensational. It's a segway, as we call it, which then leads into the Roy Hinnen loop. So the Roy Hinnen loop is a fascinating part, about 9 kilometers in total, and it brings together the different elements of roads. It has a little bit of country road. It has a little bit more than rolling hill, uphill on asphalt, and it then leads down to the half marathon mark, where you see on the map the yellow triangle. Roy, this Roy Hinnen loop has your name on it, so maybe you want to discuss a little bit.
So when you get to this loop, you're about 10K into the run. So reality starts to strike you. You understand now, has your pacing been correct? How you feeling? What about drinking? What about liquids? What about carbs and all that stuff? You understand you have arrived in your race. So, and hopefully you are still in good shape and motivated to do four more, to do the same distance 4 times longer. So it's a kind of, it's a nice name that I received the name there, because you are arriving in reality.
You're arriving in reality. Wonderful. And we call it there Forklift. That's at the southeast corner, where it then turns in back towards the half marathon mark. Forklift, it's because it's a incline, so that's the lift, and then comes a fork, and you turn right and then run down somehow to a little village, which is, again, on the one hand, you run up and then comes the relief, and it's a beautiful segment where you cross that little village, and it gives you then sense of achievement, because it goes slightly down, it pats your shoulder somehow, and you know you're very close to the half marathon mark. Okay, and then comes a segment into the forest. You pass again the railway tracks, and then comes the deer jump that's here across those boulders. And in fact, there are deers in that piece of forest. So either you see rabbits again, you can see deer, you can see other animals, you definitely see a whole different, a whole number of different bird species. So be attentive. It's a nature experience here as well. This part, deer jump, 2.5 kilometers roughly, is beautiful. And I think it's most likely from a nature experience, it's the most exciting part of the marathon track, which then leads back into the Hamburg round. Hamburg, because there is a little town, in fact, at the lake you see here on the map, which is called Hamburg. And this round is 8.5 kilometers long. It's our regular morning run when we do a run of 8, 10, 15 kilometers. That's the area where we run. Galina just lifted her hand. It's her home run as well, right? How do you like it, Galina? Do you want to comment a little bit on it? You have to unmute.
Yeah, it's I should confirm it's beautiful, especially I like the part on the top of this on the map. But it's on the top because you run between two lakes. There is lake on left side, lake on right side with lake flowers and trees. I just enjoy. And like Roy says, it's a rolling. It's a little bit up, down, so it's not boring.
And for people like Galina, it's in particular not boring because she always would say, "Oh, did you see those mushrooms? Did you see those blueberries? Did you see this and that?" So
yes, and I saw today rabbit, and I saw today small deer.
You see, okay, so get the full program, and we make these comments really to make you look forward to it. It's an entire thing that just feels very nice, and that motivates us every day to go running here. It's really nice. Then we have the Scalebo extension. Not each of the runs will have this kind of little detour. Scalebo is the name of the little village at the southern end of that extension. It's a 4 kilometers loop, which then leads back to Mundekulla. It's again the gravel road, so nothing more to mention here. And then comes the finish, the Mundekulla home run. So we go into this home run at the eastern side. This leads through the property into the forest. There's a segment we call the Mindfulness Garden, a wonderful area where all the leaf trees from Sweden have been brought together and grow there in groups of 5 or 10 trees. So it's a very nice place where you also like to spend some time, maybe before the run or after the race or in between some time to get some rest. There's a little platform in it where you can sit down and just breathe and relax and find peace. So during the race, obviously, during the race, you just pass by and know you're on the home run. So you'd like to score high now, you go down the home run towards Hamburg, and then comes the Elmberg finish, running up to the main house of the Mundekulla farm. You see here on the photograph H. And this home run is obviously a part we embed in each of the runs to give you the experience. It's a wonderful forest track, a little bit softer than the roads where cars would circulate, as it's not typically used by cars. And that brings you then back to the finish. So that's the Mundekulla home run. And we will share these slides with you as well, so you can prepare along our comments and the segments we now discussed. Roy, any further kind of advice you like to give for the segment 9, home run?
The home run, I mean, this is really when we did it, I thought like this would be the place where if you have friends traveling with you, they should be really standing there somewhere, because you are at the point suffering, you know. No one, I don't know athlete who says I could run more than a marathon on this day. He's really done because pushed. So this could be the area where you have your children, your friends, and cheering you up. Say, okay, way to go, almost done.
Very nice. So, and here on one kind of slide again, all the 4 distances we discussed now at length, the 42.2, all segments have to be around, plus twice the Hamburg round and Scalabo extension. So it brings it all together. For those who choose the marathon, like me, you can go through all those segments. Then the half marathon, we still have 2 routes. In fact, depends a little bit on the restrictions we may get from the authorities, but at minimum you will have twice the Hamburg round plus once Scalabo and then back. The 10K is the Hamburg round. That's the round Galina mentioned before, the Hamburg round, and then into the Mundekulla home run and up the Elmberg finish. And the 5K is twice the Mundekulla home run. For those who are less trained, want to take a shorter round, we found that would be a wonderful thing to do twice that round, as it provides the most consistent and soft and kind of maybe the ground which helps most for those who choose the shortest run. So these are the 4 things, the 4 different races we offer. Start and end for all the 4 is at the main center part of Mundekulla. Galina, you have a question.
Yes, I have an addition. We also have a small run for kids, 500 meters. So if you are coming with kids, there is a funny run with certain extra entertainment around the lake. So everyone starting from 3 years old can also do their run.
And no kid too small to do 500 meters, right?
Exactly.
Very nice. Now, to spend maybe the final 10 minutes on some tactics for your preparation. And we listed out here on the slide 2, 4, 6 different modules. And Roy, I guess that's your slide where you can give a little bit of a context. Why do these 6 elements make sense for the preparation? And maybe you can also expand a little bit on whether or not this should be somehow different for those who choose longer or shorter distances.
We call those training zones, and we all know from our common behaviors, human beings tend to do always the same all over again, all over again, all over again. And if you do everything the same in your gray zone area, where is then the trigger? Where is the development? So you can meditate 5 minutes. You can say one day, let's do 90 minutes. Okay, I've done it. And you're dying on 90 minutes. Then you go back, you do 10 minutes. Oh, easy, 10 minutes. So if you want to improve, you need to trigger yourself. Sometimes I say, I need to hurt Martin a little bit so that the hurt, which is, for example, fibers in the muscles are a little bit sore or even torn, get healed overnight, and the next day you're healed, kind of, you feel stronger. So those are different training zones, and it's a lot of theory out there. I make it very simple. What you can do is just run a 10K, or let's say run 1 hour at full speed, warm up, go flat out, 10K, and record your average heart rate. So this average heart rate is called your FTP performance, functional threshold power performance heart rate. Based on that heart rate, we can go then into long run, fat burn, target speed, interval, HIIT training, strength training. It's always coordinated to that. This FTP is your maximum output, your maximum balance from producing lactate and digesting lactate, producing, digesting. It will end after 1 hour. It's called FTP. because in our worlds of elite triathletes, it's always said, what's your FTP? That means what is your performance you can output for an hour?
And is that a pulse, or is that a distance, or is it a speed?
It's a speed, so it's a performance. It's like you ask someone how much money you have. You say, okay, I have 100 francs on my account. So it's a number. So it's a speed. I can run 15 kilometers an hour for 1 hour. That's your FTP. So if 15 kilometers an hour is your FTP, your long run should be much slower, of course. The fat burn is probably around 13.5. Target speed would be a little bit lower because we go in marathon. So this needs to be understood, different target zones. But it's always important to which distance does it apply, okay? For a 100-meter dash, a runner, Speedy Gonzalez runner, a long run would probably be 2 to 3K. For Kipchoge training in Kenya, a long run for him is about 40K. So, but this we can maybe go into a little bit more accurate. Maybe we can use you, Martin, as an example. So if you could do for the next time, if you want, an hour all-out dash run on a good day, and I will find out what your average heart rate is, and from there we can go into those different areas to trigger you.
Okay, but I think the essence, that's helpful, but I think what I also hear is all those different elements ideally need to be embedded in one's training's protocol.
Yes, it's
you
a balance.
Can't just prepare for your run by, as you said, you can't just go jogging for an hour and believe that's gonna make you a great experience. You need to stress your body with different forms of training. There needs to be a long run, maybe at a target speed, or a fat burn at low pulse, or an interval, which I don't like, but you told me I have to do it, so I started to like it.
You must do it. The ego is the biggest enemy of fat burn runs, because you always think in good terms about yourself. You think, okay, I can go much faster, but this is not an idea. It's the body talking. So fat burn run is a difficult speed, because you start to stink more because you're burning fat. Your emotions are not at the high peak. You don't find yourself a Tarzan. You find yourself maybe a slow, sluggish guy running around being passed by other runners. So usually the guys who have a mental strength, less ego, go better with fat burn runs. The big ego guys who want to show that they are fast will suffer on those runs. Don't do that runs, and will always die at the end of a marathon.
It's interesting. 2 weeks ago was terrible weather in the place where I was, and then I did my fat burn low pulse on the cross trainer. An hour and a half, I think it was, at a pulse of 100, 115, because it was quite easy to measure on the cross trainer. You have those sensors which take it in your watch, you have it. So how would you think about that? Is that a good or reasonable substitution if you just want to train the fat burn?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's always the question, what should you do? Like, let's say in triathlon, should we swim, bike, and run? But should we also do weight training? Should we also do lots of stretching, lots of mental stuff? My basic rule is, if you're a runner, run. But if you're motivated to do a step master session, of course do it, because it gives you a good feeling for the rest of the day. But if you think with step mastering you can run a faster marathon than you can do, then you're mistaken. You need to run. Okay. But once in a while, yes, a very good idea.
Good, that's good advice. And maybe on the high intensity interval training, I really don't like that, but you convinced me that I have to do it every week. And you told me I should do that on a slope, running uphill. for 2 or 3 minutes. At first you gave me 2 minutes, and now you gave me 3 minutes, all out uphill, which is really tough. And then you can relax for 2 minutes, and then you do it again 10 times.
Yes.
Before you do some light jog or running back, and after you warm up. So
yes, this is to teach you to love lactate, because usually the fundament where you come from, building up your form, you have not the ability to really deal with lactate. Once you're in the lactate on a little uphill on a run, you will destroy your fat burning possibility, which will help you to finish the race. So by doing those hard sprints, I will teach your body to say, wow, this is lactate. Lactate is a friend, makes me fast. Okay. So there's lots of women who like to jog along but slow, have no capacity to deal with lactate, and it therefore can never get faster. It needs to be done, and it's very important.
I think the essence of that slide and of what we discussed is don't avoid it. Take it in as the tools necessary to prepare and to improve whatever you'd like to achieve. But try to do it, and you find lots of literature, you find advice. I think also on your website, RoyFit, there is a lot of information for those who'd like to find it. But try to do it. On the strengths, maybe a comment. I made it my habit that every day I could do my push-up, I can do my core training, I can do a squats, I can do a wall sit-down, things like this. Just built it into my daily thing. Is this something you think is helpful over time, or would you rather not recommend it?
Very helpful, Martin, very helpful, because you remember what your goal is. The more you remember what your goal is, the more you tune into this energy. And if it's only 10 minutes, you remember what your goal is. Okay, you're focusing. So that's a very good thing. It doesn't need to be spectacular trainings. You know, we can small little things. Watch the diet, get enough sleep, prepare for the next test.
Very good. Maybe to wrap up, a few just takeaways. I think it's unavoidable if you'd like to get the maximum out, to try and find your economic pulse. Roy gave some hints here on the FTP, I think it's how it was called, to test that out. So if you'd like to improve, find out what is your zone you'd like to spend most of the time in. Do the different segments to avoid it. Yeah.
One thing about economic pulse, I can give a little tip. You can take 180 and then subtract your age.
Okay.
This is plus minus. Would that be the economic pulse?
That's pretty low. So for an old man like me, it's pretty low.
Yeah. So wow. Just to get an input, it is the more you train, the better shape you are. It's even more than that. Okay.
Yeah. So watch out for that, because otherwise you burn too much and you may hit the wall. You don't want to do that. I think for the half marathon runners, it's maybe less critical, but for the marathon runners, for sure. Then target time, for those who are not really regular runners, you'd like to know what is achievable. You may hear some people say, oh, you can do 3 hours. That's achievable. Most likely it's not. So there is good. We just added here a link. There are many different links where you can just get an idea for what could be reasonable based on the results you recently scored. So if you'd like to make sure you don't set your targets outside what is possible, essentially, then you find some inputs there. There will be questions maybe on body weight, nutrition, and sleep. We will discuss that in a later session. In session number 4, we talk about nutrition. We will also embed there about sleep and relaxation, weight. You know, this is not about the absolute weight, but if you can optimize now from now until then, I think, Roy, what is it? For every kilo of body weight, that can translate into a certain percentage of additional energy you have available.
Yes, and I know in bicycling it's per kilo you need to push 5 watts more. So if a guy next to you is riding an uphill 8% climbing, and he's 10 kilo heavier, he needs 50 watts more. In running, what is it in running? I think 1 kilo is about 2 minutes in a marathon, something like this, plus minus.
So it's substantial. Again, if you take all the tips Roy shared today, the 2-second stare, the minutes per kilo, and you think you have 6 weeks left, you still have a lot of opportunity to optimize while you do those different training modules, and you will definitely enjoy the race more than you would if you don't. So I think thanks, Roy. You shared a whole bunch of things with the group today. Tapering will be discussed in a later session, which means the final few weeks before the run. This is in particular important then again for the longer distance runs, for the marathon. So how to prepare to not overdo, to be really fit and to the point on race day. But we will discuss that then once the tapering comes closer. But whatever you train now, from now, the next 3 weeks, I think will add most value. The more routines you start training, not only the running, but also the other routines that will pay back then on race day. Roy, any final words from your end?
Yes, please join the Strava Club. It's such a nice tool that connect Garmin with Strava or Polar or Wahoo. And then you see all your trainings are recorded. We have, we have then the runner with the most kilometers. We have the runner with the longest session. We have the runners with the most training time spent. So it's a little bit, it's a kind of competition. You can interact, you can write yourself, you can bluff, say I'm ready. So join the club. Really, it's a good way.
Join the Strava Club. Join the Facebook club if you would want to do this, but get into the wave. Roy, myself, others are here to connect and to share. If you have particular questions, just post them. Happy to share, happy to give advice and to prepare you for a great experience.
Yeah.
I think that's it for now. We will put this material onto our webpage. You will get the slides. Eventually, we will do the recording. And next week, we will connect on the 24th, which is the Monday. So it's not a Tuesday, it's Monday at the same time, 7:30 to 8:30. Same Zoom link. See you there, and we will discuss equipment next week. Thanks for joining.
See you soon.
Thank you.